Today's show is about one thing and one thing only. That is justice for Shamari, Simmons, and Leif Fautanu. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from, of course, Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. I am Anthony Totri, joined as always by the man behind the Mac, the captain of this ship. That is Captain Redbeard. We got BC in the chat, JJB, and a ton of other Sun Devil fans. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and you drop yourself a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Look, I mentioned it off the top in the cold open. Today's show is about justice, so we're going to be talking about that. The NFL Combine, Cam Skattebo, Shamari, Simmons, Leif Fautanu. Also going to be getting into a little bit of a tier list here. We did it last year. We're going to do it again this year. Where does each Arizona State position group fall in the rankings ahead of spring football, which is, guys, it's a month away. We're a month away from spring football, maybe even sooner. We're going to close things off because we don't have a show on Friday with a little hot or not. How does all that sound to you, Captain Redbeard?
Man, grab your popcorn. We got a show.
We do. We absolutely do. I already see some people in the chat talking about Bobby Hurley. We can get into Graham Rossini's comments on Graham Rossini, or on the hot seat, a little bit later on in the show. I know there are some Arizona State fans that maybe are happy to hear it, maybe some that aren't happy to hear it. We'll get all of those thoughts a little bit later on in the show. But like Captain Redbeard said, grab your popcorn, grab a drink. We're going to get into it, starting with the 2025 NFL Combine invitations. For those of you that don't know what the NFL Combine is, right, usually the best of the best that have declared for the NFL draft are going to be working out, running, lifting, doing drills in front of every single NFL general manager and head coach. They'll have one-on-one meetings in Indianapolis. They'll do this all at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indy like they do every single year. For Arizona State, there are not a ton of players that opted to go into the NFL draft. Obviously, there are a lot of guys returning to Tempe in 2025, but there are 3 Arizona State Sun Devils who you should, I say this emphatically, you should hear their name called during the NFL draft. However, the recent news this morning makes me feel like not everybody knows what they're talking about. Cam Skattebo, he received an invitation to the 2025 NFL Combine. Rightfully so. Let's get that out the way. Cam Skattebo most certainly was going to be invited based off of everything that he did throughout the 2024 season. And from a national perspective, all eyes were on Cam Skattebo in the Peach Bowl, the College Football Playoff, the Big 12 title game. Everybody fell in love with Cam Skattebo, 5th in Heisman Trophy voting. That was never in doubt. That was never going to be a question whether Cam Skattebo was one of the running backs that was going to be invited to the 2025 NFL Combine. With that said, if you're an Arizona State fan, which I imagine most of you listening to this podcast, watching this podcast are, then you have heard the name Shamari Simmons, and you've heard the name Leif Fautanu. Starting with Shamari. Shamari, who transitioned from the safety position to the nickel corner spot for Arizona State this season, was absolutely instrumental in the success that the Sun Devils defense had this year. And if you don't believe me, go watch the first half of that Peach Bowl game where Arizona State played Texas. They didn't have Shamari in the first half of that game because he was out for the first half because of a just disgusting targeting call that shouldn't have been targeting in the Big 12 title game. He came out in the second half. He made a difference. He had an impact, forced a fumble that ultimately turned into a safety for Arizona State in that second half. Just in that alone, on top of the fact that he led the team in forced fumbles this season with 4. He was 4th on the team in tackles with 70 plus. He was instrumental in the defense. Yet Shamari did not receive a 2025 NFL Combine invitation. Leif Fautanu going into the season, Eric and I viewed him as one of, if not the best center in the Big 12. Everything and anything that Cam Skattebo was able to accomplish, right, was a big, big part in thanks to the Arizona State offensive line. Any running back will tell you that. Leif Fautanu was all Big 12 first team, meaning that he was one of the best offensive linemen in a Power 4 conference in the Big 12. Also did not receive an invite to the 2025 NFL Combine. Make it make sense. Make it make sense how a team in Arizona State that national media fell in love with, everybody in Tempe fell in love with, right? Winning 11 games a season, going to the Peach Bowl, going to the college football playoff, doing things that nobody thought this program would be able to accomplish in 2024. Make it make sense how 2 of the most impactful players on this roster, at key positions, mind you, did not get invited to a place that is all about guys getting drafted, is all about guys meeting with potential future general managers and coaches for these guys at this next level. You're telling me that everything that you saw on tape didn't warrant Leif Fautanu and Shamari Simmons getting invited to the NFL Combine? Because that's what this says. That's what a lack of invitation to the NFL Combine says publicly. It says that, hey, Leif Fautanu and Shamari Simmons, well, you may have had a great season for Arizona State, but we don't think you're good enough. We don't think you put enough out there to warrant being invited to the 2025 NFL Combine. Again, a college football playoff team, the starting center for a college football playoff team who was all Big 12 first team. Shamari on the other side, who was as key to this defense as anyone, doesn't warrant NFL Combine invites? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Can you wrap your head around it? Captain Redbeard, is there anything that you can at all tell me from what you saw this season behind the Mac on the field that would tell me, that would tell everybody at home wondering why these 2 guys didn't get NFL Combine invites?
I mean, the disrespect continues. It happened all season long. Like, it continues some more. I mean, we saw a perfect example for Shamari is that Texas game where he came in second half, immediately made a difference.
Yeah.
And that's, one of the best teams in the country. Why? He did that all year, when he played for Arizona State. So I don't know. I mean, they make a lot of mistakes every year. They choose players that, probably shouldn't have made it, and then players that should make it. I mean, they're never 100% correct. And for some reason, they decided these 2 players were not on the list.
Unbelievable.
I don't know. I don't get it, but apparently they're experts and they know more than we do. So
I guess, look, Leif, Shamari, they'll have their opportunities on a little bit of a smaller scale at the Arizona State Pro Day, but it is still a slap in the face to everything that these guys accomplished in 2024. It's a slap in the face to the program. It's a slap in the face to Kenny Dillingham that these guys weren't invited, like Captain Redbeard said. The disrespect continues. My question then to everybody that played a role in this process, in the process of deciding who gets to go and who doesn't get to go, is when will you learn? When will you learn that you can only disrespect these guys in this team for so long, right? Because at the start of the season, Cam Skattebo, by a lot of pundits, wasn't an NFL running back. I would say he has earned the opportunity to the NFL Combine, as Leif and Shamari should have. But these two guys were just as important as Cam Skattebo was. That may rub people the wrong way. That's not a knock on Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo accomplished ridiculous things for Arizona State. But the same can be said about Shamari and for Leif. Now, you know this is going to add fuel to that fire. You're just continuing to provide bulletin board material for these guys. Now, I know Leif and Shamari, they'll deal with it. They'll handle it. And I think they're going to have marvelous pro days. And I think they're both going to have careers at the next level. Kenny's going to use this. Marcus is going to use this. Brian Ward is going to use this. I see it now. In the meeting before spring ball starts, Kenny in front of everybody. Hey, guys, we won 11 games last year. We were Big 12 champions, won the conference. You know what that means? That means that there wasn't a team in this 16-team conference that was better than we were. And guess what? Two of those guys that started, that played key roles for us, that were instrumental in the success that Arizona State had, quite literally, the Sun Devils don't get to that point without these two guys. League didn't feel like they showcased enough. It's okay. Continue to sleep. Continue to doubt. It's just a shame that these two aren't going to be able to put on a show at the NFL Combine. It is what it is. Me personally, I'm not a big NFL Combine person in and of itself. I think you could do everything you need to do at a pro day. I think everything that you need to see, you could see from the tape. You could see from a season full of work for both guys. They've played a number of seasons at Arizona State and other schools. The film's there. Go watch it. Tell me these two don't deserve an opportunity at the NFL Combine. I'm waiting. I'll wait for the NFL's response on that one. Maybe it gets fixed. Maybe it gets adjusted. Probably not, knowing how these things go, unless there's just a ridiculous amount of outrage, which there probably won't be for a nickel in a center. But I'll wait. I'll wait until there's some sort of explanation why an all Big 12 first team offensive lineman wasn't invited to the NFL Combine. Or Shamari, fourth on the team in tackles for a college football playoff team, forced 4 fumbles this season. I'd say that's pretty good for a guy who switched positions at the start of the year. But what do I know, right? I just host a podcast. I'm not an expert on these things, apparently. Look, Jackson settles. Hopefully I answered your question in there, saying did Leif or Shamari not get invited? Yeah, they were snubbed. Absolutely snubbed. Ryan in the chat made the college football playoff, telling me NFL didn't look at anyone else besides Scat. Terrible from the NFL. It's sloppy. That's what it is. It's pathetic. And again, these guys have worked their tails off for a ton of time. They accomplished crazy things in 2024. And to be denied the opportunity to go do that with Cam Skattebo, a former teammate, to do it with other guys who, again, have accomplished marvelous things across college football, right? They're not going to get that opportunity. Some former Sun Devils did get invited. Got to tip your cap to those guys. Elijah Badger, he got the invite to the NFL Combine. Former Sun Devil, former Florida Gator as well. Jalen Conyers, friend of the program. He is set to go to the NFL Combine as well. Former Arizona State and Texas Tech tight end. So good for those guys. Great for Scat. Love it. But the reasoning behind Shamari and Leif, there's nothing that you could tell me. There's nothing that the NFL could say to me, could say to the fan base that would make legit sense as to why two of the key pieces to a dream team didn't make the NFL Combine. But what do I know? Drop your thoughts, drop your comments, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We will transition into spring ball discussion. I do quickly want to address what people in the chat were talking about earlier about Bobby Hurley and Graham Rossini's comments. Graham Rossini did get asked today about Bobby Hurley being on the hot seat, he kept it pretty short. He said, quote, "No rumors. He's our coach." How do you guys feel about that? Bobby Hurley, the Arizona State men's basketball coach, potentially on the hot seat. Now, you can read really deep into these things if you'd like to, or you could take it for what he says at face value. What he said was the truth. He is the men's basketball coach at Arizona State. Didn't really say too much after that, though. Didn't say he's the coach of the future. Didn't say that he's our guy going forward into 2025, 2026. Said he's our guy right now. He's our coach. There's no rumors. How do you feel about it? For me, I think I've made my feelings pretty clear about the whole thing, about the whole situation, right? Great recruiting class. Spent a decade doing this. Bobby Hurley basketball. Has its highs, has its lows. There's always the question of, can you do better? I know that's a lot of conversation among Arizona State fans in this basketball community. As it stands right now, Graham Rossini's hunkered down with Bobby Hurley to be the men's basketball coach. You can like it. You can love it. You could be indifferent. That's what it is right now. I personally wouldn't read too deep into that. We'll see what happens down the stretch. Arizona State has TCU on Saturday. That's a big game. They're all big games at this point in terms of being able to remain the coach for Arizona State basketball. We'll see what comes of the next 7, 8 games. Is there a record that Hurley can maybe achieve that would make fans, I won't say excited, but okay with him coming back in 2025, 2026? Is there a record for you, Kyle? Does Arizona State need to win a certain number of games down the stretch for you to be comfortable going forward with Bobby Hurley? Do they need to win out like we discussed earlier in the week? Do they need to upset Houston, or does it not really matter at this point?
To me, it doesn't matter. I'm ready for something new.
Yeah.
All right. Like, we've said this, over and over again. Tried it for 10 years. Not really getting the results that we want. And I think ASU basketball should just be a little bit better. So,
yeah. I think everybody will agree with that. I think Arizona State basketball deserves to get a little better, right? I'm not saying you can't do it with Hurley. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is the product that you've been given for a decade. And you seem to get similar results every year. And I say it every time I bring up this conversation. Hurley's a great person. He's a great, recruiter. I have no issues with Bobby Hurley. Friend of the program. He's been on the program a number of times. But this is a industry that revolves around immediate success, around wins, around championships, around playoff appearances. There haven't been a ton of those with Bobby Hurley at the helm over the last decade. Championships, wins, super, super highs, right? Arizona State didn't win a Pac-12 tournament. The only team in the Pac-12, once it disbanded, to leave the conference without winning at least one Pac-12 tournament. Now it appears Arizona State's only path to making this year's NCAA tournament is winning the Big 12 tournament, a conference which features Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Arizona, Baylor, a really hot Kansas State team, Texas Tech, who put up a 111 last night against ASU, and others. I would say if you are a betting man, the odds are not in your favor for Bobby Hurley. But that is what it is. Like I said, I'd love to hear from everybody in the chat. We are going to get into some spring football position rankings, but we are going to take a quick break. I don't know about you guys. I like winning things, if you couldn't tell, by Arizona State football or my disappointment with Arizona State basketball. Regardless, Gila River Resorts and Casinos, they are giving everybody an opportunity to win big. Get ready to rev your engines for the $350,000 Lamborghini Lux giveaway. Here's how you guys can win, okay? Every Friday in February, so tomorrow, you're going to have a chance to win cash, free bonus play, or qualify for the grand finale drawing. You can join them every Friday at 7 p.m. for exciting drawings. There's going to be a grand finale. You can join them on Saturday, March 1st at Wild Horse Pass, where one lucky winner is going to drive away in a Lamborghini. I love you all, genuinely. I hope I win. I hope I walk away with a Lamborghini. Don't worry. I'll give everybody rides in the passenger seat if I do win. Okay? Don't miss your chance. This is your opportunity to experience the thrill of luxury and speed. Visit every Friday for your chance to win big. Remember, you do you. At Gila River Resorts and Casinos, visit playatgila.com for more details. I want everybody to open up another tab, open up your notes, take out a pen and paper, old-fashioned, do what you got to do, but write down this number, okay? Call 480-776-5231 or visit Carol Royce's website if you guys are in the market for a new home here in 2025. What better way to start the new year than with a new forever home? And the Carol Royce real estate team, well, they're doing their part to make sure you guys find exactly what you're looking for, okay? The Carol Royce real estate team is family owned, locally operated with 3 generations of family members serving the Valley of the Sun. They've been at it for a while. If you're considering buying a home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce. Your home sold guaranteed realty. Move up to one of their listings, and they're going to buy your home for cash. If you got questions, call today or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com. Again, make sure you hit that like button. It goes a long way for us. If you hit that subscribe button, make sure you turn on the little dinger so you get notifications anytime we go live, anytime new content drops. We got some new content here on the ASU side of things dropping today. A little tail of the tape for Israel Briggs. And then you got another one tomorrow. So make sure you're on the lookout for all of that fun stuff on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Also, want to shout out anybody watching live, watching after the fact, or listening on audio. We really do appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to really just lock in and get dirty and talk to Sun Devils here in February. That's what we're all about, right? That's what it's all about here in Tempe, and that's what we're doing with our 2025 spring football position rankings. Like I said, we did it last year. We took a look at Arizona State's position groups going into spring football. Where does every position group rank? We've set it now in a number of different tiers, okay? So that's what this show, the remainder of this show, is going to be about. Where do these position groups fall heading into spring? We've laid it out. The best, stacked, solid, on the verge, questionable / needs work. We're going to evaluate every position group today. So we've got defensive linemen, edge rushers, special teams, quarterbacks, corners, linebackers, safeties, tight ends, offensive linemen, running backs, and wide receivers. If you remember from last year, running backs, I believe we put at the best or stacked alongside wide receivers. That was a conversation that I believe Eric and I had going back and forth. Do we think that the running backs are better than the wideouts? Are the wideouts, is this the year that you got at least 2 guys that can really be stars? The running backs came to play. Cam Skattebo, Kyson Brown and company, they were certainly the best position group. Well, we're here to tell you who the best position group is going to be and where the rest fall in line. What say you, Captain Redbeard? You ready to get to work?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's start with the defensive line for Arizona State. Obviously, bringing back a number of players. You bring back Jacob Kongaika. You bring back Justin Watley. You bring back CJ Fight in the interior of this defensive line. Again, remember, we are doing pass rushers separately. So Clayton Smith, Elijah O'Neal, Prince Dorba, those guys are going to be in a completely different category. For me, as it relates to the defensive line, I personally loved what we saw from these guys in 2024. I think CJ Fight took a step up. I think Justin Watley took a step up. I think Jacob Kongaika took a step up and impressed a lot of people down south that maybe didn't think that he was good enough to play at this level anymore. He did that, planted the ASU flag center field in Tucson. Loved it. Now, as it relates to the additions, Not a ton of additions for Arizona State in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. That's going to hurt for me. That's going to hurt. I would have loved to see this group add some more beef up front, some really, really quality defensive linemen. I think you've got quality, but like Will says in the chat, depth is maybe a bit concerning. You'd have loved to get a little bit more depth, at least for me. You'd love to get a little bit more depth up front. I believe you have key guys. I believe you have some superior talent, but the depth is a problem for me. That's why I believe the defensive line belongs in the on the verge category. I think they're on the verge of being really solid. We'll see what we get in spring from some of these guys. It's not necessarily even a knock on the guys that they have. It's more so I'm a guy that likes to feel comfortable. Maybe it's just a me thing. I like to be comfy in what makes me comfy, having depth on the roster at some of these key positions. That's why I'm putting the Arizona State defensive line position group on the verge. Okay? Look, I do want to go ahead. Let's do tight ends next. Tight ends is going to be an interesting category because you have Shimon Mateer coming back. He was all Big 12 second team this past season. Put together a stellar year. You loved the fact that he's coming back in 2025. You had a former Kentucky tight end in Kamari Anderson. It's going to be able to provide things that you lost with Marcus and Douglas transferring out. You're able to get Cameron Harpool back, who was a great blocking tight end for you last year. And now you've got Jaden Fortier, who redshirted last year, who was recovering from his ACL injury that he suffered in the state championship game at the high school level. Excited to see what he brings to this tight end room. And you have AJ Aya, 4-star tight end coming in this season. Now, of course, we've already talked about the tight ends of the future, Israel Briggs. The list kind of goes on and on. Those guys aren't going to be here for another couple seasons. So as it stands right now, Kamari, Shimon, Aya, Harpool, and Fortier. I love it. I think you have a ton of depth here. I think you have a ton of potential here. I think being able to retain your security blanket in Shimon is going to be massive for Sam Leavitt. The elevation of this offense in 2025, I think it's going to be big. I'm excited to see what Kamari Anderson does in Kenny Dillingham's offense. Do they utilize him a little bit more like Shimon? Do they maybe opt to use him more as a blocker like they do Cameron Harpool? Where do these other young bucks fit in? Jason Mons called Jaden Fortier a golden goose last year. Didn't play because of, obviously, the recovery due to the ACL. Is he a big threat this year? Do they maybe line him up outside the numbers? Does he play a little bit of wide receiver? Is he locked into that tight end spot? What about AJ Aya? Do we see a freshman take over? Well, in the chat saying tight ends are stacked. Kentucky transfer, Shimon, Harpool, Aya, Fortier could all compete at a high level. I agree. I agree that I think this group can be stacked. I think until we see it again, I think this is a very solid group. I think this is the benchmark for what a solid group will look like at Arizona State, where you have an all-conference second-team guy, and you've got two guys in a Kamari and Cameron Harpool that can provide other elements, and then you've got your young guns with potential in Fortier and Aya. Not to say this group can't be stacked, but I want to see it first. Maybe at the end of spring, we'll reevaluate these and see how we feel at that point. But as it stands right now, I feel comfortable putting the tight ends in the solid category, the defensive line on the verge category. Do you have any gripes with either one of those, Captain Redbeard? I know you are a man of many words.
Well, I would say I was worried because I thought you were going to put the tight ends in stacked, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if you have to see these other guys really. So Shimon's great, but yeah, I would keep him right at solid. I think right now you're in a good spot here.
Yeah, I feel like that's got to be the benchmark for what a solid group can look like, right? Returning somebody, got good depth, but maybe it's a little unproven at certain points. And we don't know how Kamari is going to fit in here. Not to say he's not going to fit at all, but I just don't know how Kamari Anderson fits in yet. That's something I'm excited to see in the spring. Do we get maybe a little bit more 12 personnel than we saw last year? Do we get a Kamari and a Harpool? Do we get a Kamari and a Shimon? Do we get some of those young guys in there? Time will tell. Spring football will tell as well. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to the running backs. The running backs is going to be a very interesting position group to evaluate because I think there are a lot of people that are still stuck on the idea that, hey, this was Cam Skattebo's team last year. We got a new guy. Let's run it back. While I agree, right, I think you do have a lot of talent in this room. I think a big question is, are they the best? Are they the best position group at Arizona State? You have Kanye Udo, transferred from Army. We've talked to, friend of the program. I really like what he brings to this running back room. Really, really do. I think he brings speed. He brings size, athleticism, breakaway speed, all of it. You return Kyson Brown, which people thought was going to be a difficult thing. I was in that camp. I was in that camp that it was going to be a difficult thing to bring back Kyson Brown after you added a guy like Kanye. He's coming back next year. Raleek Brown, your gadget back, who didn't get to play much last year because he was dealing with injury. The quickest running back in the running back room, right? We didn't even really get to see him last year. Could be fun. Not to mention Jason Brown Jr.'s back. Alton McCaskill's back. There's a lot of guys in this running back room that were here last year that we talked ourselves into, hey, these guys can be real players, and I still think they can be real players, and Kanye as well. I think this running back room is as good as it can get at this point for Arizona State. However, is it the best position group at Arizona State? I don't think it is, but I do think it's a stacked group. I think it's a stacked group where you've got your bell cow again. You've got Kyson Brown, who's going to come in, be a great change of pace back, and I could be wrong. Maybe Kyson starts over Kanye. Who knows? Where does Raleek fit in all this? Does Alton McCaskill get more run? Does Jason Brown Jr. become the guy? Right? A lot of questions here, a lot of talent. Similar to the tight end room, though, I want to see it out there. I want to see it on the field. Will in the chat saying RBs are solid. Udo is interesting. Kyson, Raleek, and McCaskill are good but inconsistent. Jason could be great, but he hasn't seen the field. I like stacked. I like stacked just based off the fact that I know what Kyson brings. I know what Raleek brings. I feel very confident in what Kanye brings as a 1,000-yard rusher, 10-plus touchdowns at Army. I think this kid's going to be special, but I need to see it in the spring before I go out there and say that it's the best position group. Not to mention, you got a couple other position groups that we're going to get into as the show continues that have some dogs. Some guys that we're talking Heisman-level conversations, okay? Moving on from running backs, let's go ahead and hit the safeties. The safeties is another unique group because you're returning a lot of key guys, right? You're returning your two starters in Miles Rouser and Xavion Alford. That is absolutely huge for this group. Now, you do lose some guys. You lose a Kamari Wilson, who I thought was going to maybe be a little bit more of a rotational safety for Arizona State last year. The Devils felt really comfortable with Ghost Rouser and really comfortable, of course, with Xavion Alford. You had Shamari going into spring ball last year as a true safety before he transitioned to nickel. Do you feel comfortable with just those two guys, right? Those are the guys that we've seen at Arizona State. Does Montana Warren go back to playing safety? Does he play the nickel spot? I think that's another question that you have to consider. Adrian Wilson, the DB you added from Washington State, where does he fit into this? He's more of a safety than probably a DB, like what he provided for the Cougs last year. Is he a rotational guy? Does he compete for a starting spot? I think for me, the biggest question here with the safeties is similar to the defensive line in terms of depth. I would say, though, they do have a little bit more star power. That's why I want to put the safeties at the solid category. You're returning both your starters in Miles, Ghost Rouser, and Xavion Alford. That does a lot for me here. I feel comfortable putting those guys in the solid category. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. This is what we got for the first four position groups, okay? We've got the running backs in stacked. We've got the tight ends and the safeties in solid. And we've got the defensive line in the on the verge category. Will saying safeties are great, but depth is unproven. I'd put them as a very solid group. Will, we're on the same page here for a lot of it. This is what I like to see, okay? Stick around on the other side of this break. We are going to continue this PHNX Sun Devils 2025 spring football position breakdown. Listen up. NASCAR returns to Phoenix Raceway March 7th through the 9th. That is right. Join them as the stars of NASCAR battle it out for the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway. There is nothing like witnessing the stars of NASCAR battle 200 miles per hour on this 1-mile oval raceway in the foothills of the Estrella Mountains. If you have never been out to Phoenix Raceway, let me tell you what, it is beautiful out there. Take the family, get a group of friends together, turn it into an entire fun weekend as it approaches on March 7th and the 9th. It's a best-in-class fan experience. The whole family is going to have a great time, and you're not going to forget it. Have this be one of your moments in 2025. One of those weekends that you look back on at the end of the year, and you're like, man, that was fun. That was maybe a highlight that we had in 2025. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com. Now, most of you know that I got a haircut, right? A few weeks ago. Got a buzz cut. That's not going to stop me from rocking our friends over at Branded Bills. We were there just the other day. We made these hats. I made this hat. That's right. Our friends at Branded Bills, we saw it. We saw it firsthand, the passion, the creativity, and the amount of work that goes into the success and the comfort of making these caps for you guys. Look, whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitteds, beanies, or tees, Branded Bills has you covered with a couple things: performance and, of course, style. Personally, I like to say they got you covered with affordability as well, okay? Head to brandedbills.com and make sure you use that code PHNX for 20% off your first order. Getting hats like this, getting hats like these, the ones we got hanging, all sorts of hats and caps over at Branded Bills. Kyle, how you doing? Just how's life, man?
Doing good, man. I'm excited for this football team to get to spring training, spring practice. I think a lot of great players coming in this year, and a lot of players that can really prove themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see who will step up this year. I got a feeling some players are going to step up and have a great year.
That's kind of the question, right? Is like, who's going to step up now that you've got Scat gone, Leif gone, and Shamari gone? Kind of goes back to the conversation we had at the top of the show, right? Arizona State's going to have to replace 3 starters who did marvelous work for Arizona State throughout the 2024 season. We'll see. We'll see, right? We brought up Leif Fautanu, obviously not getting invited to the 2025 NFL Combine, starting center for Arizona State. That brings us to the offensive line in this tier list. Where does the offensive line fit in? I'd love to hear from the chat. It's going to be a very, very interesting group this year. You're able to retain just about every single starter except Leif Fautanu for the most part. You're returning Ben Coleman, one of the best offensive linemen in the conference heading into this upcoming season. I'm interested to see, do they keep him at guard? Do they kick him to tackle? Do they move him to center? I think you probably move him to center, given the fact that he's been in this offense now. And he really is one of the most experienced offensive linemen you have. Do we see Sean Nah? Does Sean Nah make a return to a starting position for Arizona State? And where on this offensive line? Is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Mad Max is back. He's probably your starting right tackle. Where does Kyle Scott figure in? Kenny's called him one of the most improved players on this roster. Is he a starter? Maybe. What about the guys that you managed to bring in from the JUCO ranks, the transfer portal? What about Jalen Clem? Huh? Dude from Washington transferred last season. Everybody expected him to be a starting tackle. Missed the whole season for personal issues, personal reasons, I should say. He's back. Where does he start? Does he start? Maybe. I don't know. But regardless, I think this unit is big. I think they have the potential to be even better than last season. I'm going to put them in the stacked category. Something I never thought I would say about an Arizona State offensive line group is that this position group is stacked. Kenny Dillingham made it a point of emphasis when he got here. We are going to be big, we are going to be strong, and we are going to be monstrous in the trenches. This Arizona State offensive line has all the tools, all the returners, and all the talent in the world to be monstrous again in 2025. That's why I think this position group is absolutely stacked. Don't get me wrong, though. I want to see that position just go at it in spring football. I want to see those position battles. Who is starting and where along that offensive line are they starting? Will in the chat saying he believes they're stacked as well. If not the best group overall, best group is between offensive line and wide receivers. Well, let's go ahead. Let's get into the wide receivers. Another really unique group here because you're returning Jordyn Tyson, a guy who I view as a top 3 wide receiver in college football next season. Think about that. Arizona State has arguably the number 3 wide receiver in college football. Do you know who the other 2 top wide receivers are in college football, Captain Redbeard? If you had to guess.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm Arizona State or die, so I don't know any other
there
teams.
You go. Well, let's go ahead. Let's start with Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith, if he was entering the NFL draft, would be pick 1. Let's get that very clear. He is the most talented wide receiver in college football, national champion now, coming back to Ohio State, 1 of 1. And then you got Ryan Williams, dude at Alabama, who was an absolute dog as a true freshman last year. If you don't believe me, go watch just that Alabama-Georgia game. He put on a show. Those 2 are 1 and 2. Jordyn Tyson, in my estimation, is number 3. Potential to rotate in between those 3 because he's played more college football than those guys have. Jordyn Tyson is a special, special talent. The wide receivers in that room are really, really athletic, right? Like, you're bringing in a Jalen Moss from Fresno State who has put together back-to-back seasons of really, really fine work there. I think he has the potential to be an NFL wide receiver one day. I have been banging on the table since that news came through that he was going to be transferring. I think he is easily a starting wide receiver here, okay? You've got Chance transferring over from Clemson, didn't get a lot of run there. What kind of jump does he make for this team? Is he a starting caliber wide receiver? Malik McClain, now that he's got the playbook down, do we see him really take off in 2025? Former Penn State wide receiver. To some of the younger guys, does a Derek Xavion, does he take off with Melquan Stovall no longer here? Troy O'Meara, he's gone. Xavier Guillory, he's gone. Is it a Zechariah Sample? Does he maybe make some noise in 2025? This wide receiver room is really, really talented. There's a lot of guys here. Again, I need to see them really, really take off outside of Jordyn Tyson. I want to see Jalen Moss in an Arizona State uniform just tear it up. I want to see Chance tear it up. I want to see Eusebio tear it up, if I'm being completely honest with you. Is it the best position group? I think it's the second best position group. I think this position group is stacked, for sure. It's a great group with a lot of talent. I want to put them as the second best group at Arizona State heading into spring ball. I genuinely believe that. Can we move them ahead of, who do we have there? What order do we have this in now that I'm looking at it?
Running backs, wide receiver, O-line,
Let's
tight
go.
ends.
Let's do wide receivers, then offensive line, then running backs. And that's on me for not making that clear off the top. And then we have tight ends and safeties. Let's go ahead and put the safeties in front of the tight ends. That's where I feel like this group is at as it stands right now. Will saying the offensive line is 15 plus starting caliber players going this spring. I don't know about 15. Also saying wide receiver has Tyson, McClain, and if you saw transfers, Moss, Chance, Alexander. Both groups are talented and deep. I completely forgot about Alexander too. You got the Alabama transfer playing at wide receiver as well for Arizona State. I think, again, this is certainly the second most talented group going into spring ball. How do you evaluate the quote-unquote best, though? Is it the deepest room? Is it the best player? You'll find out when I tell you who I think is the best position group at Arizona State. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Again, these are the position groups that we have left. We've got corners, edge rushers, quarterbacks, special teams still on the list to evaluate for Arizona State. And I promise we are going to get to those final 4 position groups, but I do want to take our final break. Look, tomorrow is Friday. And for me, that means I get to indulge in some pure edibles. That's what I'm going to be doing on Friday. I hope you guys do the same. Look, Pure Edibles was founded in Arizona and is available in 130 dispensaries statewide. Okay, Pure gummies are not covered in sugar like all other competitors, especially if you're somebody that's maybe trying to be healthy, going to the gym. You don't want to see your edibles just covered in sugar like candy, but I'll tell you what, they still taste like candy. Okay, Pure is a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, Kicks, their version of Starburst, chews, soft candies like caramel, and of course, hard candies as well. Look, Pure effects are clearly listed on each tin, so you know exactly what effects to expect. If you need to have a chill night, well, look, it's going to tell you right there on the tin. If you want to have a night where you just turn on a movie and just let your brain rot, well, guess what? It's going to tell you on the tin as well. Pure was created in Flagstaff, Arizona at Noble Herb Dispensary, the home of Pure Edibles, and is now made in Phoenix, Arizona. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries in Arizona. Now look, the weather is changing, okay? And if not now, it's going to start changing soon. The sun is going to come out, which means, guys, you're going to have to double down on some of that deodorant because some of y'all stank, okay? Just going to be melting in the sun. You don't want that, okay? Go check out our friends over at Mando, okay? It's a men's deodorant brand that's hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean, okay? We are talking pits. We're talking belly buttons. We're talking balls. We're talking butt cracks, grundles, so much more. Mando has you guys covered, okay? If you're going out, if you're going to the pool, if you're going golfing, hanging out with friends, family, get yourself some Mando so you don't stink, okay? Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers can get $5 off a starter pack with the exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code PHNX at shopmando.com. Shopmando.com. Please support what they are doing, okay? Tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Clint in the chat saying Big 12 has their own Combine Invitational. They do. They do have their own like little pro day that they got going on. So we'll see a number of Arizona State players likely at that as well. Will saying, I just know Totri is going to put QB as the best position group, but outside of Sam, they're just solid at best. Sims is the only QB returning that has experience behind Sam, obviously. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get into those quarterbacks, huh? Because you do have Sam Leavitt, you do have Jeff Sims, and you got some young bucks. You got Navi, you got Butter, you got some dogs at quarterback, to be honest with you. Now, they didn't go to the portal and add a big name, but they didn't need to, right? And I think when you're evaluating this and you're talking about which position group is best, you also have to keep in mind how many of these guys are playing out there when we're talking about it, right? You only ever want to see one quarterback for your team. Sam Leavitt's your quarterback. Sam Leavitt's a top 5 quarterback in college football. I saw things that had Sam Leavitt as a projected first overall pick in 2026. That's how good this kid is. That's how high people value quarterbacks. That's how high people think of Arizona State's Sam Leavitt. And as it relates to Jeff Sims, I love it as a backup quarterback. He was here last year. He's a dual threat guy. He knows the system. He's a veteran. And then you got your young guys behind him. I'm cool with that. I'm absolutely cool with that. You got the best player. You got arguably one of the best quarterbacks in college football. It's the best. The quarterbacks are the best at Arizona State. Again, something I didn't think I would ever say at Arizona State is that Arizona State in 2025, the year of our Lord, has a guy in Sam Leavitt who has the potential to be a Heisman candidate at quarterback, has the potential to be the first player off the board in the 2026 NFL draft. He's got to, he's leading the group. He's got to be in this position group, has to be the best heading into spring. Sharon says, I get that, but quarterback is such a unique position, and Sam is the star of the team. Hopefully, we never have to use anyone else, and if so, hopefully it's very limited with Jeff Sims only. Will saying, you saw the drop-off this team when Sam went down. Sam is the best player, but the group overall is not the best. I don't know if they're top 3 position groups, honestly. How do you feel, Captain Redbeard? How do you feel of that assessment?
I mean, are you judging this off of like this is the best player on the team, or is this the deepest
I think
position group?
when you look at these position groups and where I'm ranking them, right? Yeah. I think something you have to keep in mind with all of them is the top tier talent that they have in that room, right? You have to consider depth. You also have to consider how many of these guys are going to be out there any given time. Okay. Wide receivers, unfortunately, it's a little bit of a knock because 3-4 of those guys are going to be out there. Running back, same thing. It's just going to be 1, maybe 2. Offensive line, there's 5. Arizona State and every other team, you're only playing 1 quarterback if you have to, right? Sam Leavitt's the guy. And if I'm evaluating this position group off of young talent, they've got young talent. They've got a returning backup who knows the system. And they've got their guy, their superstar, the best of the best on this team. I think you put that together. I love where the quarterback position stands, and I do think it's the best. I think there are other groups that you could look at in the stacked category that maybe have an argument for the best, but there are still questions that need to be answered about them. I don't think there's a question that needs to be answered about the Arizona State quarterback room. I really don't. You know who your starter is, you know what your backup brings, and you know where your young guys are.
That's fair.
So do you think they're the best?
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I just needed some context there.
That's fair.
Because, it's just one player in that position group, and so you could be concerned a little bit about depth. I mean, we know what Jeff Sims brings, but, and barring this never happens, but they go to a 3rd string, 4th string.
Yeah.
And we've seen that at ASU football. Like, we need to be, somewhat confident in those players too, because you never know what will happen in a college football season. But I think I agree. The quarterback is the best player on the team usually, and Sam Leavitt is the best player on this team, and he'll make the most difference and most impact.
Absolutely.
So
I'm glad we're on the same page. You don't got to throw me overboard on this one. Let's go ahead. Let's get to the linebackers. Another really fun group for Arizona State, returning a ton of talent. Keyshawn Elliott, he's back. Cyrus Fiaseu, he's back. Jordan Crook, he's back. Right? Martell Hughes, he's back. Like, you have a lot of really talented linebackers here. I'm going to be quick and easy with this one. This is a stacked group as well. This is a stacked group that I want to put probably right behind wide receivers. This is a group that has all the potential, I think, to be the best unit overall for Arizona State. You've got 3 guys that played a ton of minutes. You're going to miss Caleb McCullough, obviously, not being here in 2025, but the rest of those guys have star written all over them. I'm excited to see what Martell Hughes does this season. He's got some experience now. I mean, look at that. Me and Will, we're one and the same, Will. We're one and the same. This is a stacked group. It's going to be fun to watch them feast in spring. Where do you want to go next? I know that one was kind of quick, but I feel like there doesn't need to be a lot said about this group. They're just returning so many starters.
Let's stay on defense. Pass rushers.
Ooh, pass rushers. Oof. This is a tough one. I love Clayton. I love Prince. Elijah O'Neal. You did lose some guys, right? I believe Jamon Tapp is gone. I could be wrong on that. I'm spacing a little bit on Jamon Tapp. I believe he is gone, though. And there just wasn't a ton of pass rush for this team last year, right? I think that was the one knock that I had on this defense, is it felt like you were really, really thin at pass rush. Or maybe it was just production at pass rush. For me, I want to put pass rushers on the verge. I think this is a group that can hit that solid level. I'm excited to see what Elijah O'Neal does in another season. The same goes for Clayton and Prince. I think Dorba needs to have a little bit of a bounce back year. I know he dealt with injuries really throughout the season in 2024 for Arizona State. I want to see more production, like Will is saying. And for me, I will move them probably ahead of defensive linemen just because, again, I think the starting 3 with Clayton Smith, Dorba, and then, of course, O'Neal, they've had their moments, right? They've had their moments. Same thing with defensive line, though. I just don't know if the depth is there. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody really steps up, and I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see one of these guys turn into an absolute game wrecker for Arizona State as it relates to pass rush. We'll jump in the gun saying corners are solid. 2 deep is questions, but the talent is there. Let's go ahead. Let's get into the corners. Javen Robinson, you are back. Starting corner for the Devils last year. Keith Abney, you are back. starting corner for the Arizona State Sun Devils last year. Rodney Bimage, Tony Lewis and Cuba, getting some guys from the portal, some dogs from Purdue, right? Like you got some corners on this team. This is a solid group. This is a really solid group that I'm going to put at the top of solid. That may rub some people the wrong way, but I believe in Keith. I really believe in Xavion. I think these young corners are going to be monsters for Arizona State. The size on some of these guys, the length, the athleticism. Again, last year I was banging on the table for Keith Abney. Mark it down right now, February 13th. I'm banging on the table for Tony Lewis and Cuba. That's the guy. He's an all-name kid, and he's an all-athletic freak that Arizona State fans, my goodness, just wait. Just wait till he gets out there. Chris Johnson as well, another really talented young guy. These young corners, I think, are going to surprise. And there are probably some people saying, well, what about the Purdue guys? I think the Purdue guys are going to have a great career, great few whatever at Arizona State. The young guys is who I'm excited to see in 2025, along with Keith and Xavion. Corner group is certainly a solid group for me. Bringing us home, it's the special teamers. Kenyon Floyd, you're back. Love it. Love it as a punter. The big question, though, did we get our kicker? Is Jesus going to save the day for the Arizona State Sun Devils? I am going to put this group in questionable and needs work. The only reason I'm putting them in questionable needs work is because I want to see it. I am a see it to believe it kind of fella, and I need to see Jesus really knock them in for Arizona State before I put this position group anywhere else. I am haunted by kickers as a Chargers fan. I have been haunted by kickers since before the dawn of time. And as an Arizona State supporter, it's the same thing. It is the same exact thing. That should do it, though, to recap our 2025 position rankings for Arizona State football in the spring. Again, this is heading into the spring. These things will change when spring is over and then heading into the season as well. We've got quarterbacks as the best position group at Arizona State, followed in the stacked category as follows: wide receivers, linebackers, offensive line, and then running backs. And the solid category, led by the corners, then the safeties, then the tight ends. On the verge, guys that are here with a lot of talent that have the potential to be solid in stacked position rooms. Edge rushers, followed by the defensive line. And the questionable needs work category is your special teams group. Again, I'm a see it to believe it kind of guy. How do you feel about that, Captain Redbeard? Any gripes?
The only thing is, I think one of my favorite groups here is corners. I felt like Keith played great last year. I think that they're going to have a big year this year. I would put him a little higher, maybe put him in stacked at the end.
Okay.
But that's just me. Like every time I was on the field watching this team play, I always felt like they were very reliable and played great and locked whatever receiver up. So, and I think they're just going to improve next year. But
let's do it.
That's just me.
I'm with you. Put them in that category. I'm here to listen to the captain. We will absolutely put corners in the stat category. Again, that means you have safeties and tight ends now in solid. And the rest, as I said, is follows: on the verge, edge rushers, defensive line, and, of course, special teams bringing up the rear. We're going to put that on social media. Let me know what you guys think in the comments on social media as well. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. How about we get into a little Thursday hot or not? What say you, Captain Redbeard?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Then what do we got for topic numero uno?
Give me 1 second here.
The man behind the Mac. The man behind the Mac. We got to fix there we go. We're all set now.
All right, number one, we have I've been doing this lately. Eating soup out of a can. Hot or not?
Eating soup out of a can. I think it's hot, but eating soup out of a can while it's hot is also hot. You do not eat soup out of a can hot, Captain Redbeard. For the people at home, how do you like your canned soup?
If I'm camping, it'll definitely be hot. I'll put it over the fire, but yeah, anywhere else, just open up the can and start eating it.
Just room temp.
Yep.
See, I'm cool with cold, and we discussed this yesterday. If you give me cold, I'm cool. If you give me hot, I'm cool. Room temp is where I draw the line. I think eating soup out of a can is hot. I think it adds aura, and I think you are the type of man that is just like, I mean, that's a eating soup in the can kind of guy, right? And that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. I'm gonna say eating soup out of a can is hot. Will says not hot, just weird. Okay, I also want to let everybody know watching on TV that the party always continues at gophnx.com. The first time maybe Will and Captain Redbeard have been on opposite sides of a hot or not. What do we got for topic number 2?
Number 2, boots with shorts. This is thanks to Noah,
Boots with
our
shorts.
son's producer. So
I gotta Google this.
So like it's not a big thing in Phoenix probably, but like any cold weather state, you'll see people walking around with shorts and like snow boots on. And so I was just wondering, what do you think of that? Is that hot?
Boots and shorts?
Yeah, like big boots, and he's got shorts on, like athletic gym
Do you
shorts.
think it's hot?
We were discussing it earlier off the show. I'd say that it's convenient but not hot fashion wise. It looks weird.
It looks really weird.
Yeah.
You have to be, I think, like a right type of, like, you got to be a special kind of person to be able to pull that off. I don't think either one of us are boot and shorts kind of persons, or people, I guess. I'm going to say not hot. I'm going to say boots and shorts, not hot. D-Cash in the chat saying Shamari Simmons wasn't invited to the combine. I know, D-Cash. I was banging on the table about it for 15 minutes early. It's ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as the shorts and boots combo that we're talking about here. Not hot for me.
Yeah, not hot.
Bring us home, Captain.
Last one. Potato salad.
Oh, hot as hell. Hot as hell. If you don't like potato salad, I can't trust you. Also, mac salad is also fire too. Like, I'm a big potato mac salad. If you don't like either one of those things, you're not invited to the cookout anyways. They're fire. Do you agree?
I was going to ask you, which one do you like better? Pasta salad or potato salad?
Wow, you are putting me on the spot here. Red pill or blue pill, huh?
Because potato salad is more filling, right? Like,
yeah.
You can feel full after that, but if you get like just a side dish of pasta salad, it's not very filling.
No, but normally these things go with other, like, you're not just eating it straight out of like a can, right? You're like eating it with like a meat of some kind, maybe a veggie or two. Like, I'm thinking Hawaiian barbecue almost when you have like a pasta salad or like a macaroni salad. Wow. This is tough for me. I'm going to say potato salad. Potato salad is just so, like, a good potato salad, dude. I could sit there with a big spoon and eat the whole thing and just be real gross with it. It's hot. It's super hot. You'd agree, though?
Yeah. That's why we're on the same ship.
That's why we are. Mr. Ruby, though, still floating away at sea right now. Yep. Are we going to pick him up anytime soon? Or is he stopping by again? Or
I don't know. He might be gone forever.
Tough. That is tough. Maybe he'll show up on Monday when we need him. Guys, that's going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devils Show. Like I said off the top, really appreciate everybody watching live, watching after the fact, and, of course, listening on audio as well. It goes a long way. If you guys could hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Give us a follow on social at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You can follow Captain Redbeard at K-Coop Sports on social as well. We will be back for a post-game show on Saturday for Arizona State basketball, whether it be a party or a therapy session, or maybe we'll just sit here and cry for an hour regardless. But until then, go Devils. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.